All right, the committee will please come to order. A quorum is present, and without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess at any point. I want to welcome all of the members of the committee to this first round organizational meeting of the Select Committee on the Modernization of Congress, and then later we'll be taking member testimony. We meet today pursuant to notice to one, introduce the members of the Select Committee on both sides of the aisle, and two, sorry. Was I speaking in the wrong one? All right, well, that's a good start. And two, to adopt our rules of procedure. I want to thank my colleagues for being here today. Because we have a very full agenda, the Vice Chair and I have agreed to dispense with opening statements at this time. But we're going to take a few minutes to introduce the committee members who've been appointed to the Select Committee. Without objection, all members' written statements will be included in the record. So the House has charged us with an important and necessary job, and thankfully we have a wonderfully talented and collaborative group of people to work on it. Each of us is committed to making the House more effective and more transparent and more responsive to the needs of the American people. And I'm excited to be part of this committee and to be joined by my friend and colleague, Vice Chair Graves, in leading this group on the journey ahead. I'm optimistic about all we're going to be doing together here over the course of this year. So with that being said, I want to welcome and introduce the Democratic members of the committee. Zoe Lofgren represents California's 19th Congressional District. She's been a member of the House of Representatives since 1995. Before coming to the House, she practiced and taught immigration law and served on the Santa Clara Board of Supervisors. She also served as a staffer to her predecessor, Congressman Don Edwards, which gives her a unique perspective into what it's like to be both a member and a staffer here in the House. And she's currently the chairwoman of the Committee on House Administration. So welcome aboard. I will hop ahead to the folks who are here. Susan Delbene has represented Washington's 1st Congressional District since 2012. Before being elected to Congress, Representative Delbene had a successful career in the tech industry, helping to start drugstore.com, serving as president and CEO of Nimble Technology, and spending 12 years at Microsoft, a small software startup in Washington State, most recently as corporate vice president of the company's mobile communications business. And I'm confident as a result of her experiences, Congresswoman Delbene will lend a very valuable voice to our discussions around technology. The Congresswoman currently serves on the House Ways and Means Committee. Mark Pocan has represented Wisconsin's 2nd District since 2013, following 14 years in the Wisconsin State Assembly. Like me, he brings the perspective to this committee of having worked in the state legislature, and we do plan to look at high-functioning state legislatures around the country for some best practices, and Congressman Pocan serves on the House Appropriations Committee. I'll introduce in their absence, Emanuel Cleaver is currently in his 7th term representing Missouri's 5th Congressional District, and before coming to Congress, Representative Cleaver was the first African-American mayor of Kansas City. He's a United Methodist pastor, and I know he'll have much to add to the discussion about ways to foster civility and collaboration here in the House. He's a member of the House Committee on Financial Services. He chairs the Subcommittee on National Security, International Development, and Monetary Policy. And he's also a member of the House Committee on Homeland Security. And then finally, Mary Gay Scanlon represents the 5th District of Pennsylvania. And prior to being elected in 2018, she served as the National Pro Bono Counsel at Ballard Spahr and worked as an attorney for the Education Law Center of Pennsylvania and the Support Center for Child Advocates. And as our freshman appointee, she'll be able to speak to the concerns of some of our newest colleagues. And Congresswoman Scanlon serves on the Rules Committee and on the Committee on Judiciary. And with that, I want to yield to Vice Chairman Graves to introduce our distinguished Republican members.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I look forward to working with you. And from the onset, let me just say I'm very grateful for the spirit in which you and your staff have worked with us, and I hope all of our members understand how well we are working together. This has been set up as a bipartisan committee, and the spirit of that is true in all parts of it. We have a great slate of members over here. This committee is divided up, 6 Republicans, 6 Democrats, and on the Republican side, aside from myself here, next to me is another great Georgian, Rob Woodall. Rob, he was elected in 2010 as well, and He's got a unique experience. He served as a former staffer for his predecessor, John Linder, and he's on the Transportation Committee and the Budget Committee, but most importantly, he's representing the Rules Committee here today. So, Rob, it's great to have you on here with us. Next to him is Ms. Brooks from Indiana, a former U.S. Attorney and Deputy Mayor of Indianapolis. Ms. Brooks was sworn in 2013, and she serves on the Energy and Commerce Committee, but is most notably known for her service as chairwoman of the House Ethics Committee. So it's great to have you here as well in your perspective. Next to her, infamous in many ways, is Mr. Davis. He's got a great background as well in public service and in humility. And he's worked with our current colleague, Representative Shimkus, as a former staffer for him for a number of years as his projects director in Illinois. He was sworn in 2013. He's the ranking member, along with serving with Ms. Lofgren on the House Administrations Committee, and he represents that committee here as well today. So good to have you with us, Mr. Davis. Next to him is Mr. Newhouse, third-generation farmer and a former state legislator. He serves with us on the Appropriations Committee, as you know. He was sworn in 2015, and his family continues to operate their farm in Washington. So for the third Washingtonian on the committee, we bring you Mr. Newhouse. And then next to him will be our new representation from this current class, and that's William Timmons from South Carolina. He's a former state prosecutor, a small business owner, and he was sworn in after serving in the South Carolina General Assembly, and he serves on the Budget Committee and the Education and Workforce Committee, and he'll be a great addition of bringing a new perspective from that millennial perspective, as you enjoy as well, to this committee from the Republican side. But that's our team.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't think I qualify as millennial, but well, welcome aboard, everybody. We're grateful for your participation on the committee and for your attendance today. There's some business that we have to do, and the plan is to run through this as in whatever amount of time we have to run through it. And then our first testimony will be at 9:30. So if we run through this with a little time to spare, we'll just go out of these for a few minutes until 9:30. Pursuant to Title II of HRes 6 and Clause 2A of House Rule 11, that was a mouthful, it is now in order to adopt the Select Committee's Rules of Procedure. As is required by House rules, a copy of the proposed rules have been distributed to each of you at least 24 hours in advance and is at your place on the dais. The clerk will please designate the resolution laying out the Select Committee's rules.
A resolution offered by Mr. Kilmer to adopt the rules of the Select Committee on the Modernization of Congress.
Without objection, the resolution is considered as read and is open for amendment at any point. I recognize myself for 5 minutes to briefly summarize the proposed committee rules. I won't take 5 minutes. So these rules were drafted with an eye toward fairness to both sides of the aisle, reflecting our unique committee structure, which includes an equal partisan split. The rules are similar to those of other committees here in the House. We drafted them in conjunction with the Vice Chair and his team and believe they'll encourage member participation and foster transparency and allow us to proceed expeditiously with our work. And I was pleased with where we landed and urge my colleagues to support these rules. I yield to the distinguished Vice Chair if he has any remarks that he may have about the rules.
Sure, thanks, Mr. Chairman, and representing the Republicans here, let me just tell you that we did work well together on this, and it was a great dialogue between one another to come up with a rules package that's a little bit unique and different, because this is a very different committee. I'm sure each of you have had a chance to review it, but it allows for tremendous participation from this committee, and hopefully it's a good example moving ahead for other committees in the future. But, Mr. Chairman, thanks for your willingness to work with us on it, and I look forward to supporting your package.
Does any member wish to be recognized to discuss the committee rules of procedure? Okay, are there any amendments to the committee rules? Okay, seeing none, I move that the proposed rules be adopted as the rules of the Select Committee on the Modernization of Congress. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, the ayes have it, and the proposed rules are adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. As is required by House rules, the rules adopted by the Select Committee will be published in the Congressional Record and made available to members and the public on the committee's website. So that concludes the order of business for today's business portion of the meeting. Without objection, that went far faster than it could have, so thank you for all being so. What a terrific start, people. Without objection, committee staff is authorized to make technical and conforming changes to reflect the action of the committee in adopting the resolution embodying our rules of procedure. Does the vice chair or any other member seek recognition before we conclude with the business portion of our meeting? Nope. Okay. If not, without objection, the committee stands adjourned for about 10 minutes. Thanks.